44 weeks and 4 days since the final mark was scored last season, the 2020 Hertz FIM Trial World Championship gets underway. A much-changed calendar features rounds in 4 different countries, each comprising 2 days of action. Trial GP France is the season opener, the first top-flight visit to the alpine resort of Isola2000 since 2016. The steep, tree-covered hillsides close to the Italian border are familiar rocky territory for Trial GP's competitors. It's the third visit to a venue first included on the calendar in 2009. Adam Raga arrived with 3 previous wins to his name around Isola2000, compared to 2 for Tony Bow, the 13 times world champion, getting underway with yet another title defence in 2020, with 11 hungry rivals from 4 different countries ahead of him in the starting order for day 1. 2019 Trial 2 world champion Gabriel Marseille suffered something of a baptism of fire on his debut in the top flight. The Montesa RG trial man, 12th and last after a high-scoring first lap from which he was never able to recover. Dan Pease finished just 3 marks clear of the Spaniard. Another of 3 competitors cut adrift of the rest of the pack, with 8 failures apiece. The reigning world number 11 finished day 1 in the same position again. Making the switch to Vertigo UK after 9 World Championship seasons on gas machinery, Jack Price finished 10th on his debut in green. The 23-year-old scored 52 marks, 3 clear of fellow countryman Peace, but 16 back from the rest of the field ahead. A high-scoring start to the day left reigning world number 6 James Dable down in 9th position at the end of lap 1, and that was where he stayed. A failure in the very first section of his campaign was one of only 4 fiascos in total, but he managed just 6 cleans, including 4 on a much-improved second lap. Mikel Jalabert made a promising start to life on board the Hippel Racing Gas, the 22-year-old from Barcelona, making his debut with the manufacturer, having previously represented Sherco throughout his World Championship career. Sitting 6th at the halfway mark, a clean or 5 final lap dropped Jalabert back to 8th. Back-to-back French Championship wins just 30 kilometres away in Oran provided the perfect boost in pre-season confidence for Benoit Bincaz, who less than a week later got his World Championship campaign underway with a solid 7th position. Improving as the day went on, the Beta man impressively cleaned no less than 14 sections. An unprecedented 25th season in Trial GP for Japan's Takehisa Fujinami opened with a solid 6th place. 40-year-old, a 3-time French Grand Prix winner, dropped 20 marks over just 2 sections through the day, but otherwise looked in strong form with 11 cleans and a 29-mark score. '25-year-old Jorge Casales took his first Trial GP podium as far back as 2015, but has only added 1 since. Nevertheless, the season opener suggested he may challenge more regularly at the head of the field in 2020, 2 consistent laps giving him 5th position in Isola2000, a solid start to life as gas number 1 for the former Vertigo man. Adam Raga has fond memories of this venue, having won the first World Championship trial staged here 11 years ago. But day 1 of the 2020 season won't be one the twice world champion looks back on with any fondness. A winner of the French Grand Prix in 2014, Raga failed to make the podium altogether on this occasion, finishing just 4th. Gironi Fajardo made sure his first Trial GP appearance since a winter move to the Sherco factory team ended in success. The 35-year-old was one of the men setting the bar right from the start of the day, and although he struggled for consistency on the final lap, he'd done enough to hold on for 3rd position with just a single failure throughout. Jaime Busto finished just 5 marks short of registering a 2nd Trial GP win after finishing 2nd to Tony Bow in the 2020 season opener. Busto, now in his 2nd season with Vertigo, scored his 4th consecutive French Grand Prix podium with the best final lap of anyone. But a single failure in section 9 of the first lap had left him with too much work to do. So Tony Beau extended his winning run to 15 consecutive trial GPs, and in the process claimed the early lead of the 2020 standings. The 33-year-old opened in typically dominant fashion, 8 successive cleans putting him ahead, and he was the only rider to successfully complete each of the day's 20 scoring sections. Not even in a single section did Beau part with more than a single dab, although 2 drop marks for time did blot his copybook. A fine performance from Beau, picking up where he left off during an unbeaten 2019 campaign, securing his 4th victory in succession on French ground and claiming his 113th career trial GP victory. Just 8 marks cover the podium trio at the end of the opening day of 2020 competition. An all-Spanish top 5 heads the field, Takehisa Fujinami best of the rest, and only the bottom 3 cut adrift of the pace. It's been a tough day, a long trial but an easy one. The first lap was cancelled while I was leading. Starting up from scratch was difficult, but we've done it with a good score in the final laps, and starting with a win is ideal for myself and the team. 5 different manufacturers in the top 5 places at the halfway mark in the French Trial Grand Prix. Disappointing day for the 3 Brits, with only Gabriel Marseille for company at the bottom of the table. Tough start to 2020 for 9 times world number 2 Adam Raga, who misses out on the first podium of the campaign altogether for the 4th season in a row. Tony Beau wins the season opener. Catch him if you can. With 2019 champion Gabriel Marseille having stepped up to Trial GP, the Spaniard's closest rivals from last season, the likes of Matteo Grattarola, Alexandre Ferrer and Toby Martin, were the favourites for the 2020 FIM Trial 2 World Championship. Spaniard Pablo Suarez proved he's made a major step forward during the winter. The 19-year-old was just 14th in the 2019 Trial 2 World Championship, but a year on he claimed the first podium of his career. It could have been more, but for a nervous finish that resulted in a final section failure. 3 times French Grand Prix winner Alexandre Ferrer could only manage second in his first appearance since moving from Sherco to front the TRS Trial 2 Challenge. In a low-scoring trial, 7 marks was insufficient to challenge for top spot, but as one of only 3 riders not to fail any section, he was a dead cert for the podium places. But Matteo Grattarola continued his perfect start to life on board Beta Machinery. Having beaten the likes of Trial GP regulars Jaime Busto and Benoit Bincaz to win the opening round of the Italian Championship just over a month ago, Grattarola swept to a convincing win in his first World Championship outing as well, with just a single drop mark from 20 sections. Sondre Haga comes the closest he has yet to a first career podium, losing out on count back to Pablo Suarez for 3rd. Positions 1 to 15 are separated by just 25 marks, a low-scoring trial in which the old hands came to the fore. Having dropped down during the winter for a first Trial 2 spell since 2016, Arnaud FRA was surprisingly restricted to just 8th, one of 3 Spaniards inside the top 10 after the opening trial of the campaign. A 10th Trial 2 victory for the 2018 world champion Matteo Grattarola, the oldest rider in the field, taking an early lead in his bid for a second title. Day 2 in Isola2000 offered to Matteo Grattarola's rivals an immediate opportunity to respond. Similar weather conditions to the season opener, albeit with a slightly stronger wind for the 25 Trial 2 riders. After an anonymous 11th place finish on day 1, Toby Martin rediscovered something of the form that took him to within a point of the world title in 2018. The TRS rider finished just a mark clear of fellow countryman Jack Peace and returned to the podium for the first time since the 2019 Belgian Trial GP. Nothing but their starting order could separate Matteo Grattarola from Alexandre Ferrer on day 2 in Isola2000. Italian lost out as a result of his advantageous starting position after both riders scored 11 marks, 27 cleans and an identical scorecard.
Matteo, chiude! Non è finita, fino in fondo! Bravo Teo!
Ferrer always raises his game for Trial GP France, and he's now a 5 times winner on home soil, as well as joint 2020 series leader. A fine start to his new adventure on board the TRS, a 15th Trial 2 victory for the 2012 World Champion. Having been inconsistent in 2019, Alexandre FRA has certainly hit the ground running this season. Aniol Gelabert makes major progress on day 2 with 6th. Jack Peace and Toby Martin also benefiting from their first Trial 2 outing of 2020 and making big steps forward at the second attempt. With their rivals taking points from one another over 2 days in Isola2000, Alexandre FRA and Matteo Grattarola build a 14-point lead to the rest of the pack. Pablo Suarez best of the rest, despite finishing just 8th on day 2. Toby Martin secures the 14th podium of his Trial 2 career, making it a TRS 1 and 3 with Alexandre FRA. A restricted entry list of 13 riders over 2 categories for the Women's World Championship as a result of the global pandemic, but 2019's medal winners were all back to resume their rivalry. In 20 years, just 3 different women have claimed honours, the majority of titles divided up between Laia Sanz and current number 1 Emma Bristow. Sandra Gomez was Bristow's closest rival in 2015 and 2016, but has dropped a place back in the pecking order since then, and again she finished 3rd in the 2020 season opener. The Spaniard had sat 2nd after the opening lap, but an error-strewn run through the final 4 sections of the day left her 9 marks back from 2nd. World number 2 for the last 2 seasons, Berta Abayan continues to grow in confidence and consistency. Just 7 marks back is the closest she's yet been to unseating Emma Bristow from the top. The 20-year-old from Terrassa was the best performer of anyone on the final lap, but had already conceded too much ground in a low-scoring trial. Emma Bristow's last defeat dates back to 2017, the 2 most recent of her 6 world titles, both achieved with a faultless score. But based on the final lap of day 1 in France, she could face some genuine opposition in 2020. Bristow had excelled on the opening lap, clean aside from a Section 1 dab, and that was enough to finish 3 cleans ahead of her nearest rival. 2 separate battles from the opening day of the 2020 Women's World Championship. The top 3 separated by 16 marks, with just 6 between 4th and 5th positions. Caroline Moran beats Madeleine Hoover for 4th in only her 2nd top-flight appearance, but up at the front of the field the positions are largely as expected, with the Spanish duo close to the early series leader. Emma Bristow claims the 26th victory of her World Championship career and opens up the defence of her world title in perfect style. The pecking order in the Women's World Championship remains similar through the 2nd day of competition in France, with an identical podium trio to the season opener. Sandra Gomez has now claimed 5 consecutive 3rd places. Another trip to the podium in France, but not the step she would have hoped for. Only 11 cleans recorded on day 2 in Isola2000 kept her from her direct rivals. And after recording her worst lap, she slipped down to a familiar finishing position. A slow start for Berta Abayan left her frustrated and 17 marks adrift of top spot. She dug deep and rode best of anyone on lap 3. That was enough to recover 2nd place, although her wait for a first victory continues. After securing a relatively modest winning margin first time out, Emma Bristow dominated a tougher trial on day 2, leading by 11 marks at the end of lap 1 and extending that advantage to 18 at the finish. With an impressive 20 cleans and just 3 failures, Bristow extends her championship lead to 6 points. Madeleine Hoover got her revenge over home representative Caroline Morin, taking 4th place by a 15-mark margin, but the top 3 were unchanged on day 2 in Isola 2000. 4 points separate Spanish rivals Berta Abellan and Sandra Gomez heading to home territory in a week's time, but it's Emma Bristow that both now need to catch. Bristow extends her winning run to 11 World Championship trials unbeaten as she chases her 7th consecutive title. The 4th season of the FIM Trial E World Cup is set up as a head-to-head between unbeaten champions Gas and their main rivals Electric Motion. The French manufacturer, which focuses solely on electric models, celebrates its 10th anniversary in 2020 and hopes to do so with a world title. I think the fact that we're the manufacturer with the largest number of participants is the result of the fact that our bike is a production model and a lot of riders have bought it. This season we've made a very large step forward on the technical side with our E-Pure model, and I think our bike can give us great joys, which is what we're looking for. The opening day of 4 in Trial E saw the Electric Motion factory rider Gaël Chatagneau take a shock victory by a 6-mark margin over 2019 title winner Albert Cabestan, setting the tone for the weekend as a whole. I'm very happy with my day because I only dropped 1 mark in 2 laps. The bike worked really well in every section. That's the aim of Electric Motion and all of the riders in this category, to show that an electric bike can perform just as well as a fuel one. Gas started the season as favourites, having provided 3 different winners in the last 3 campaigns, Albert Cabestan claiming honours last year. But the former Trial GP veteran came up short in both season opening trials in 2020, missing out on day 2 after a tiebreak on cleans that followed a low-scoring day. It's interesting to see the start of Electric Trial from close up. It's still very early days for us, a project that's come from Gas's past. We've seen that the competition is working hard and we're clear about where we need to go and how to face them. So I think the future is interesting and positive. At the halfway mark in the 2020 Trial E World Cup, Gaël Chatagneau sits unbeaten, with Albert Cabestan 6 points adrift ahead of a 5-week break before the season finale. After a low-scoring opening day, several sections were revised and increased in difficulty to ensure a competitive second half of the weekend in France. Another physical challenge ahead at high altitude in Trial GP.
Vous allez les voir passer, ensuite vous pourrez descendre au bas du circuit pour aller voir les zones.
Dan Peace's wait for a top 10 finish in Trial GP continues after he endured a miserable second day in Isola 2000. The Jerko youngster was already 14 marks back from his nearest rival by the end of the opening lap, completing just 2 of the first 10 sections of the day. Although he rallied back, he could make no real impression. In fact, it was a difficult day for the Brits all round. James Dable suffering his worst result since the 2018 French Grand Prix as he came home just 11th. The reigning world number 6 suffered a total of 11 fiascos and a 76-mark score, almost double the result of the podium finishers after a disastrous 3rd lap. Learning from a challenging opening day in France, Gabriel Marseille finished 2 marks clear of James Dable with 10 failures compared to 11 for the Brit. Marseille's 10th place was a creditable effort, and his second lap ride in particular suggests there's more to come from the 20-year-old. Jack Price becomes the lead British rider in the championship standings after beating James Dable by 2 places on day 2 in France. The Vertigo man scored only 8 cleans compared to 10 for his fellow countrymen, but rode consistently through the day to score 72 marks and finish 2 clear of Marseille behind. Well clear of the bottom 4, Benoit Bincaz could well have finished higher than 8th, but for an error-strewn 2nd lap. The Frenchman failed 4 consecutive sections at the halfway mark during the day and slipped back, eventually falling 18 marks short of the podium places. Mikel Gelabert recovered well from a disastrous first lap that left him in the bottom three, eventually improving from his day one result to finish 7th. With just 3 failed sections on the final 2 laps, Gelabert was among the best performers later in the day, but the damage had already been done. Veteran Takehisa Fujinami was again 6th. 3 failures in the first 5 sections of the day, hardly an auspicious start. But he did get going on the second lap and his consistency was well rewarded. 3 successive fiascos on lap 3 though kept him from the podium places. Jorge Casales came close to bettering his day one effort, falling just 8 marks short of second, but ultimately again left in 5th. The Spaniard was left to rue his lack of cleans, only 12 compared to 17 for the worst of the podium finishers, but it has been a solid start to 2020 nonetheless for the reigning world number 5. An impressive leader after the opening lap. Gironi Fajardo fell back out of the podium positions with 4 fiascos on lap 3 and was left 4th. Sherco number 1 scored just 9 marks on the first run through the course compared to 21 under time pressure in the latter stages that left him on a total of 46 marks. Tony Bow suffered his first defeat since the 2018 Japanese Grand Prix as his run of 15 consecutive victories was brought to an end. The reigning champion suffered throughout the day with back pain and restricted movement in his right forearm, but battled on to take 3rd place and valuable points for the championship. Section 6 in particular hampered Bow, 3 failures there contributing towards an 8-mark difference to top spot. Jaime Busto pipped Bow by just a single mark, despite odd dabs in the final 2 sections of the day under time pressure that almost slipped him down to 3rd. The Vertigo rider thus matched his runner-up result from the 2019 French Grand Prix, although with a better 3rd lap he could have been looking at a first win since the early stages of the 2018 campaign. Adam Raga was best placed to take advantage, putting in an incredible 3-mark final lap to complete a resurgence through the field from 5th to 1st. The TRS team leader, who made his Trial GP debut at the 1998 French Grand Prix, now boasts 13 wins in the country. 7 marks clear of his nearest rival, the largest number of cleans and the fewest fiascos. This was a convincing display. Raga's first victory since the 2017 Czech Grand Prix shrinks his deficit at the top of the championship standings to just 2 points, providing the perfect tonic to a difficult opening day for him in Isola 2000. The bottom 3 from day 1 were joined by James Dable in their battle for 9th, while the rest of the field proved pretty evenly matched, aside from the victorious Adam Raga with his fine final lap effort. Yesterday was a tough day. I never felt good with the bike. We're very high up here and that changes the bike a great deal. Today I felt a lot better after a few adjustments we made yesterday. In the end it's worked. A very competitive final lap and I'm happy to take the win. Relatively few changes outside of the top 3 positions. Jack Price moving above James Dable for 9th and Gabriel Marseille overhauling Dan Peace in the lower order. The podium trio from day 2 in France are now also the series leaders. The 3 of them separated by just 2 points heading to Spain in a week's time.
Seulement 6 points.